understand. Allah has not fixed it where we are robots that he can just program. Nope, it don't work like that. He gives us two choices. He gives us the choice. He gives us a will, and then we can either choose to do the things right all of the time, or choose to do things wrong, or we can choose to mix it up. But he warns us of the consequences and apprises us of the end result of our choices. But he still does not force his way on us. But the thing he will do is if our way begins to endanger his planet or the righteous, he will step in. And as it says, it's a fearful thing to fall into the grip of the Almighty. Huh? If God have to stop you, you will wish that you had stopped yourself. That's why he wished that you had stopped yourself. That's why he sent the Honorable Elijah Muhammad refers to it, he referred to it like this. He said, what is the duty of the civilized man? It is to teach civilization to the savage. And if the civilized man fails to perform his duty, what must be done? He should be chastised with a severe chastisement. Huh? Same thing that Ezekiel said. If you don't warn him, he gonna die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at your hands. His life will I require at your hands. Huh? Yeah, because you could have warned him, but you didn't. So I warned y'all. You know, now I get to stand up here and say, I told you so. I get to stand up here and say, didn't I tell you what Donald Trump was up to? Because I did tell you. So, he's sitting up there praising Putin now. Your president. But let me show you. The same game that QAnon was running on you on the internet, now you see what playbook it came from. Because Putin doing it all over his country. Look at this. Put that picture up there on the, yeah. Just hold it there.
There's millions of conversations going on in Ukraine tonight that are more difficult than any version of the American problem of how do you talk to relatives you disagree with politically at Thanksgiving dinner. Imagine being on the phone in Ukraine while you're under attack, your country's under attack from Russia, and your father on the other end of the phone in Russia does not believe you. Your father believes Vladimir Putin and does not believe that you are being attacked. He does not believe that your wife and children had to flee the country for the safety of Hungary. Imagine what it feels like to be on the Ukraine end of that phone call and hearing from your father's own mouth how Vladimir Putin's propaganda is working. There are 11 million people in Ukraine with relatives in Russia. They are all having or trying to have a version of that phone call.
Just a moment here. trying to find out why this thing ain't giving me. Let's see. Okay.
How you would feel hearing that from your father. Misha was so angry during the first phone call that he hung up. He gave up on his father. But now he has a plan. He has a plan. 11 million people in Ukraine to break through Vladimir Putin's iron curtain of propaganda. Misha Ketsurin will join us later in this hour. We begin tonight with the latest on the Russia does not believe you. Your father believes Vladimir Putin and does not believe that you are being attacked. He does not believe that your wife and children had to flee the country for the safety of Hungary. Imagine what it feels like to be on the Ukraine end of that phone call and hearing from your father's own mouth how Vladimir Putin's propaganda is working. There are 11 million people in Ukraine with relatives in Russia. They are all having or trying to have a version of that phone call. One of them will join us tonight. Here he is in a photograph with his father. His father, who does not believe him. And here is Misha Ketsurin with his wife and children just before his wife and children fled to Hungary. Misha's father is not worried about his 8-month-old grandson,
right?
Because Vladimir Putin has told him there is nothing to worry about. Imagine how you would feel hearing that from your father. Misha was so angry during the first phone call that he hung up. He gave up on his father. But now he has a plan. He has a plan for 11 million people in Ukraine to break through Vladimir Putin's iron curtain of propaganda. Misha Ketsurin will join us later in this hour. We begin tonight with the latest on the war front.
They blocked and because they don't want our people to get some food, water. You can feel it only when you are here, because the people from Europe or USA, it's far from Ukraine, it's far from the heart of this tragedy, and you can't see, you can't understand the details because you are not fighting here.
Today, Russian airstrikes destroyed a children's hospital and the maternity ward in the city of Mariupol. Let me say that again as you look at this video. Vladimir Putin's invasion force actually attacked a children's hospital. There's a pregnant woman being carried away from the maternity ward. They destroyed the maternity ward. Leading off our coverage tonight is NBC News correspondent Cal Perry in Lviv, Ukraine. Cal, what is the update? What do we? 17 people were injured in that attack. We know earlier today. I've been trying to find out, have any babies been born since that attack? What do we know?
You know, we don't know because so many people immediately scattered and fled the scene. What we do know about Mariupol is that it is, quote, hell on earth. I've said that a lot this week, but I have some more details on it. And at least 1,200 civilians have died in the siege of that city. Not that bombing, in the siege of that city, at least 1,200, though the deputy mayor thinks it's 3 times the number. In reality, we heard yesterday that a mass grave was dug, a trench in that city, and more than 50 people just put into that mass grave because there is not an option anymore for funerals. People cannot get above ground for long enough to have a funeral, and the morgues are now overwhelmed in that place, which again is under this 24 hours a day siege, being either indiscriminately shelled or purposefully targeted. This is one now of 60 hospitals that have either been hit or taken offline, that is, taken their power out across the country since this war began. The other situation in another city that is horrendous is in Kharkiv, and we've been talking about this for a week. Day 7 now of a siege there, and we understand from officials there are bodies in the streets that cannot be cleared because the shelling is so intense. As to now closer to the capital of Kyiv, the outskirts of that city now coming under increasing fire, and my colleague Richard Engel reporting that civilians are afraid now to leave that city, that they're being shot at as they try to get out of these areas, that the Russian troops are targeting them on the ground. So they're moving into the interior of these cities where they're, of course, now just more vulnerable to the bombing. Add to that, and this is important in the part of the country where I am in the West, you have these reports that Chernobyl has been cut off from the IAEA's measuring system, that they can no longer read the measurements coming from Chernobyl, or for that matter, in the Zaporizhia power plant, which we saw that fierce fighting last week. The White House today could use chemical weapons. All of this is incredibly unnerving for a population that either finds itself underground, hiding from shelling, or where I am in a place where the human traffic has just become overwhelming. This city, population of 700,000, is now closer to 1 million. After we spoke yesterday, the mayor is saying publicly that they can no longer handle the influx of people. The border is now a choke point with Poland. Some people, again, leaving their cars, walking for miles. So this really has now, this city of Lviv, become a last stop and a place where people are just getting stranded. And as the weather gets colder, the situation is only getting worse, and the humanitarian catastrophe is continuing, Lawrence.
Cal, I want to ask you about something we're going to discuss later in the hour, and that is, have you been talking to people in Ukraine who have been calling their relatives or their friends in Russia who do not believe what they are telling them is happening in Ukraine?
Yes, I have spoken to at least one person who had that experience of trying to convince folks in Russia that what was happening here was real. Russian state television is obviously telling their side of the story. Ukrainian state television is telling their side, and both are mirroring each other. I mean, we've spoken about this before. You have this POW situation here.
You remember Alex Jones was calling Sandy Hook a fake? Wasn't true. Remember he was doing that? Do you see the same thing here? Yeah, they got his army surrounding that little country, bombing them, mortaring them, rocketing neighborhoods, hospitals. Do you know what the most scary part is? This is what ain't nobody telling, but I know they thinking it. He done put himself in a position where he can't stop. You know why? Because he has committed crimes against humanity that he has to be put on trial for. So he either runs the table, wins, and hides, or he knows that if he pulled back, the world court coming after him. I mean, he done killed civilians. They got soldiers that done kill civilians. Purposely. They didn't say it's an accident. It was done on purpose. That's the proverbial tiger by the tail. Can't hold him, and yet you can't let him go. You know, they have an old saying about war, that when you make your way through war by means of war, it's like riding the tiger. Pretty soon, you wind up in his belly. The scripture says it like this: he that taketh the sword shall perish with it. You take up the gun. You remember when they showed you the picture of Malcolm X holding a rifle, looking out his window, when he was following the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? He taught against that. Malcolm taught against the gun. When he left the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, matter of fact, that was one of his disagreements with the messenger. He thought that guns needed to be allowed because these people come after us with guns, and the messenger said, no, that's suicide, Malcolm. Think, how in the world can you fight a man with weapons that you have to get from him, ammunition you have to get from him, and when you get wounded, you got to go to him to get patched up? How you gonna fight a war like that? Not to mention, where you gonna put your women and children while you there fighting your so-called war? Do you honestly think that God let us come over here to go through all this hell just so we could learn how to pick up a gun and shoot somebody? That's not what this was about. This was about being able to wrestle with a corrupt mind and win over it. To outthink a wicked man. Do you understand? Now look, I'm standing up here. Now one of y'all that think you can outthink me, come on in here and let's talk. And let's see. You question, I'll ask you a question, you ask me a question. I'll let you go first. You ask me a question first. Then I will ask you one. And let's see who get to the point where they can't give a truthful answer. Don't worry, it ain't gonna take long. What you think I've been doing for the past 40-something years? Let me see, I'm 71 now. And I accepted Islam at age 22. So that's about 49 years ago. What you think I've been doing for the past 49 years? I've been arguing with people. It ain't many arguments that I ain't heard. And Allah have given me the answers. Allah will allow, they desire to put out the light of Allah. What is the light? They desire to put out the light of understanding of Allah with their mouth. But Allah will allow nothing but the perfection of His light. It's people that wish they had never. You remember Mr. Neubauer asked me when was I crucified and when was I, and he hated the fact he asked me that question when he heard my answer. Huh? Because he didn't realize he was doing just what the scripture said he would do. When did we see you hungry? When did we see you naked? He said, when did we crucify you? And I told him, as you did it to the least of these my brethren, you did it unto me. He walked right into that one. Huh? He didn't want to ask me no more questions. And but it was too late. It's just like all these people that used to tell me. I remember I walked in there when I first moved here. I walked into this car quest that this Caucasian owned it. And, he's just letting me know they've been watching me. You served in the souls lately? That's what he asked. I said, I didn't know him, but he knew me. Because, our people scatter these white folks. And they talk about it, and they talk about me, thinking that I was, the son of man and all that. And so anyway, I told him, I said, somebody got to speak up for my people. And he didn't say nothing else to me. But I know he got chastised. So, the worst thing you could do is come up to me and call yourself making mockery of me for doing what Allah told me to do. Now, they don't learn now. That's why you don't hardly hear nobody clowning with me now. But The only reason they seem to have gotten away with it before was because Allah wanted to perfect my understanding. And he wanted me to grow out of being emotional, being thin-skinned, That's because somebody says something you don't like, and then you want to get all huffed up and blowing and going on. That ain't going to get you nowhere. Huffing and puffing and blowing and going on because somebody said something that you didn't like. Reply. Respond. And so that's what I had to learn to do. And I outgrew that emotionalism. That's kind of like what W.D. Muhammad said. Allah was comforting me through him in 75. He said, all of you who can identify one final likeness among us, he said, Allah have not let him live long enough to become a child of knowledge. He is still a child of emotion. He said, but this is a house that was formed in knowledge. And men and women of knowledge just don't fall down in the floor and cry like babies when the winds of emotions blow. Do you understand? And so, but I was the baby. And so it was easy to upset me. So, I had to grow. And the messenger told me, he said that it is the black man has to wait his time. Do you understand? I didn't realize I was going to have to go no 40-something years before I'd be ready. But after a while, as I grew, I realized. It's just like the messenger. He had to grow into the knowledge that it wasn't time for him to teach certain knowledge. That's why once he grew into it, he said it's been a long time since I got up on the rostrum to teach. He said, because I'm forbidden to do so until the proper hour. You understand? Nobody even asked him ever what he meant by that. Well, the proper hour was when I showed up. Then that's why in 72, that's when he taught on the theology of time. Do you understand? He started a whole series of lectures called the theology of time. The study of the God and religious truth of time. Well, the Son of Man is the Lord of a particular day and time, the Sabbath day. So he was teaching on the study of the God and the religious truth of the Sabbath day. And that's me. Do you understand? And so now I'm in my time. And God means grantor of dominion. You notice, it's none of you can take dominion over a conversation with me. Not one. I don't care how wise you think you done got. I hear you saying things even in your field. I can teach you about things that you didn't even know you was saying to me. I hear things that you don't hear. And I see things that you don't see. As the messenger said, he said to me, Allah has made you, the truth has made you, Son of Man, a teacher who sees into the depth of things. Yes. How you think I'm able to look at this language and tell you things about it that you didn't know? That wind whooping out there, ain't it? So, well, if it pleases Allah, it'll not get too tough. Get out of here. Go on somewhere else. So, the main thing is that we are inside of a circle of safety in this day of judgment. So you heard the messenger tell you about me. Now, I'm here. Putin is telling his Russian people that he's freeing the Ukrainians from Nazis. Huh? When who's actually the Nazi? Who's taking up Hitler's scheme? Tell the big lie and stick to it. Huh? And cut off all media. That you can't have people, no free media, because if you have a free press, then the press gonna tell the people what's really going on. I didn't hear you. Now you understand the wisdom of the founding fathers of the United States. The press, it's just like when you look at the press in the White House. That's not the president's magnanimity. They got a press room in the White House. And you got to go out and talk to them. You understand? You know, you notice Donald Trump, he had stopped talking to the press. Huh? Then you got people like Tucker Carlson and all of them the people he go talk to. People who purposely give you fake or false news. They even call it Fox News. They outfoxed you. You know what that means. They tricked you. I told you that too. Trick news, that's what Fox News is. Trick news. And even that Sidney Powell got on there and told you, when they called her on the live she was there, she said no rational person would have believed what I was saying. She didn't realize she was even saying that if she could find somebody that was not in their right mind, she would take misadvantage of them. I'll lie to them on purpose. That's what she's saying. Because that's just stupid. And she thought that was a defense for her to show you she lost her mind. I'm going to tell you something. You get to hanging out around insane people for too long and conversating with them, if you ain't careful, you're going to be one of them. Why you think I always, now some of y'all going to feel insulted by this, but you get mad all you want. But I'm just telling you the truth. Why you think you see me by myself most of the time? You don't see me hanging out with people that ain't in my circle. And even you who in my circle with me, you notice I don't run with y'all. You know, I got all of the company I need. I got 144,000 with me, and with Allah makes it 145. And that's sufficient for me. I don't get lonely. I always got conversations going on in my head. The messengers of God, they conversate with me. As I said, thy rod and thy staff, thy word and thy prophets, they comfort me. That's right. He prepared a tablet before me in the presence of my enemies. I found the Bible and the Holy Quran in the presence of the devil. Jesus came not in a righteous time, he came in a wicked time. Moses came in a wicked time. David, Solomon, they all came in a time of darkness, spiritual darkness, wickedness. Thou preparest the table before me, before I was born, in the presence of mine enemies. Son of man, sit on my right hand till I make your enemies all over the earth. Then you go out there and overcome them with the truth. Anybody who have a religion other than mine, their religion is a lie. Now, how come don't nobody come in here and challenge me on that? Come on. Come on in here. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh at him. Is that what is that what it said? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Allah said, thou art my son. This day. What day? The Sabbath day. This day have I begotten thee. That's right. He said, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. That's right. And that's exactly what I am. So, I want all of you, no matter what country you're in, I'll say to the UN, to the people, you might want to tell Mr. Putin that you, if he was stopped right now, you would consider that he might have been temporarily insane. And because that's insanity, what you see. Now you have to acknowledge that that's not sane. You don't declare, you don't surround your now, let me show you how unintelligent that is. Now they say that he have the majority of his army is over there around Ukraine. Well, who's protecting Russia? Is that sane? No. So I mean, he could have a defense of temporary insanity. And if you determine that a person was not sane at the time that they did something, then you can't hold them responsible for what they did. Do you understand? Okay. And I bear witness that that's not a sane act that he's doing over there. You know, there was a time when he wouldn't have dreamed of doing nothing like that. It's if for no other reason that the optical of it, the way it looks in the eyes of the rest of the world. No, you just don't do that. You know, so, but anyway, let's look at this some more.
On the ground in Ukraine, where these young Russian pilots are being paraded by the Ukrainian forces to try to bolster what's happening here. And listen, the stuff about the power plants and the stuff about the chemical weapons, all of this is either misinformation, disinformation, or a potential catastrophe. Either way, it's forcing people out of this country. So we heard 2 days ago the Russians say, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Russia said, Ukraine's going to carry out a chemical attack, and we're going to have to go in and we're going to have to save people. Just the word chemical attack gets people out of this country. It works in favor of the Russians. So the information war is a very real thing, and it's costing lives, Lawrence.
Cal Perry, thank you very much for your reporting tonight.
Did you hear what he said? Information war. Now you understand what your boy was doing on there. He called his show InfoWars. What that boy's name? The fat boy? Alex Jones. You remember he was on there with InfoWars? Trying to fight truth with lies. Huh? The reputable news reporters, CNN. When have you? They used to have a motto, CNN, the most trusted name in news. Ain't that what they had? Okay. When Vietnam was going on, was anybody calling that fake news? And they was telling what was going on over there too. It's a lot of things they didn't tell, but they told the majority of it. That's how that Lieutenant Kelly got court-martialed. So the American news media has they have had a reputation of telling it like it is. Huh? You don't just stop doing that all of a sudden. But they showed us Sandy Hook, and here come Alex Jones talking about that was all fake. Huh? And they sued his behind, and they won. You see, if you say it's fake, and you got out there in the public and said that, well, you are calling the fathers and the mothers who came out and were interviewed and were grieving over their children, you were calling them liars and saying that their grief wasn't real. I didn't hear you. Do you know you got to have a certain kind of wicked heart to even think about doing something like that? Parents done lost their babies to a violent mass shooting that was done to them babies on purpose. And then you come out and say, when the news of it come out, you get up there and say, well, that's fake news. I hope that the Congress of the United States start making laws that if you get out there on the public airways and you just purposely lie to the American people, I'm not talking about get something wrong and make a mistake and then come back and correct yourself. But to get out there and purposely lie, you know, they say it's laws against you going into a theater and screaming fire when it ain't no fire. Because if somebody get trampled while they trying to get out of there, and it wasn't no fire in the first place, well, I think they got a term for negligent homicide. Huh? You should have thought about that when you see that packed theater and you just holler fire. You know people gonna get to running for the exit. You know what a confidence man is? You know, think about the term, confidence. That's a man, that's a person, male or female, that win your trust just so they can later deceive you. I'm gonna have to stop working y'all so hard. I see half-ways and that be asleep. I got some hard-working brothers and sisters. I keep them up all night sometimes. But you know, that's the way it is. Look, let me tell you something. The only reason you do that is because of your patriotism for your nation. I don't want these people to think that believe me, I'm not making them stay up. They're doing that on their own. You know, just like me, I stay up on my own. Ain't nobody making me do nothing around here. It's just like with the but you know, people never give a second thought. When you see that man or woman in uniform, whether it's the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, or the Marine Corps, you may not give it a second thought. But are you aware that the military never sleeps? When one goes off duty, another one is taking their place on that watch. Why do you think President Biden says at the end of all of his meetings with the press, or his lectures, or whenever he comes out and speaks, he always ended with, "And may God protect our troops"? You know, when you living in a world of aggression, in order to be at peace, you have to have the ability to make war. And people have to know you have that ability. Do you understand? You cannot deal with the world the way you would like it to be. Reality, if you stay rooted in reality, you have to deal with the world the way that it is, not the way that you would like it to be. While you trying to make it a better way, you better make sure that you're dealing with it the way it is. Do you understand? Yes. That's what I think President Roosevelt, he said, speak softly, but carry a big stick. Huh? What's that? But be ready, just in case. If you're not ready for war, how you going to talk peace? The only one who can talk to a bully is somebody who's not scared of him, and somebody who can fight him. Do you understand? And then you go to him, then you say, hey, man, hey, cool out, man. We don't have to do this. And he might listen to you, but he ain't going to listen to that person standing up over there trembling. Why can't we just get along? Why can't we just try? Nigga, shut up. That's what he tell you. Slap you down. Do you understand? No, man. You can't confront a bully with cowardice. No. You confront him with strength. You say, hey, man, I don't want to fight you, but if I have to, well, we will do that. So as I was looking at the world and world affairs, I mean, give a man a way out, especially if he's not totally there. Because that you push somebody where they ain't got nothing to lose, they may commit suicide and won't take you with them. Don't do that. Your main thing, your main goal should be to restore peace and dignity. Not to see how many lives you can take. Because just remember, whenever you take the life of another human being, you're committing fratricide. Always remember that. The devil knows that. That's why the devil gets you to call your fellow human being, call him by a name that makes him not human. You see, get you to call him different names. Everybody got a different name for when they go kill somebody, when they want to go kill somebody. Because if you're going to go to war against your family, well, that don't look so good. Huh? So let's look at some more of this.
Really appreciate it. And joining our discussion now is former Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who served as Director of the European Affairs at the National Security Council during the Trump administration. Colonel Vindman, thank you very much for joining us again tonight. And I want to get your reaction to this targeting of a children's hospital. There is, in war, there are targeting errors. It happens. Hospitals get hit. It happens. But when it happens, responsible parties come out and immediately say we mistargeted, that was a mistake, it was a targeting error. They immediately account for it when these things happen.
You know why they do that? They do that in remembrance of what Hitler and all of them people who helped him. Yeah, a lot of times it ain't just out of the goodness of their heart, it's out of fear. That's a good, healthy fear. That you're gonna have to, if you lose this war, even if you wins and losses are basically, when it comes to wars, they are temporary at best. I'll show you an example. The lion that defeats another lion to become the king for a while. It ain't gonna be long before he get old and another young lion come and defeat him. I didn't hear you. Okay. Keeping that in mind, are you sure you want to win by any means that you think is necessary, when one day you won't be as strong as you are, you won't be as popular as you are, and the people that remember what you did may come back and get you and put you on trial for what you did? Huh? So you better make sure that if you have an accident or whatnot, when you fighting and call yourself conquering somebody, you better make sure that you're not committing what the general consensus among human beings would consider war crimes. You know, it's just like in other games that you play. You step on the line, that's out of bounds. Huh? You tackled someone that you shouldn't have been able, they call it clipping. Huh? You know, you tackled them wrong. You jumped off sides. There are rules in the game. Huh? There are rules of war. They made rules of war. Professional soldiers do not attack civilians. Is that what you trained for? When in boot camp, we didn't go up against people that didn't have. When we had those pugil sticks and whatnot, one of us had a knife, another one had the pugil stick. Both of us had a weapon. You didn't go up against somebody who didn't have a weapon. And even if you go up against somebody who have a weapon that have not been trained in that weapon and didn't go through the boot camp and all of that like you did, you know they ain't got no win against you. What do they know about warfare? But they're fighting for their home because you decided to come over and aggress upon them. What do you expect any man to do? His manhood not going to let him run away. And his ignorance will 9 times out of 10 cost him his life. So the only way to put fear in you from doing that is to call to mind what happened to the people who followed Hitler down that road. Huh? And look at what it did to the reputation of Germany. Germany had a lot to get over, had to do to get over that stigma of what Hitler did. Huh? And what they allowed him to do. It's just like these people that call themselves a nation of Islam while the messenger ain't here and whatnot. Every time you look up, somebody got some nation of Islam out here. How in the world you got a nation of Islam that God ain't the head of? There ain't but one nation of Islam. The new nation of Islam, and that's what I'm the head of. And all the rest of these people lying to you. All you have to do is look at what they're doing. Islam means entire submission to the word of God. Whose word do you hear coming out of the mouth of all these leaders? You sure don't hear the word of God coming out of their mouth. I'm the only one you hear God's word coming out. And you notice none of them challenged me on what I just said. Bunch of hypocrites. Anyway, so I want you to listen to this. I mean, because Mr. Vindman, he points out some things, but even he's not as knowledgeable. Remember, no one gets the intelligence briefings that the President of the United States gets. Do you understand? And he gets them every day. And sometimes more than once a day. He gets intelligence as it comes in. It's fluid. So just because something was going on this morning, at noon, something else might be happening that negates that. Do you understand? So it is not intelligent. It is not intelligent on any of our parts to second guess or to try to be an armchair president, talking about what he should or should not do. You know why? How can you make judgments about what he should and should not do when you don't have the information that he has? That's why it's so important that when you elect someone for president, they must be honest. They must be someone that you know you can trust what they say. Do you understand? Because if you can trust what he says, it's because he has respect for you. And even more important, he has respect for himself and the truth. Do you understand? President Biden, he ain't up there lying to you. And if he decides, like people ask him, well, does the intelligence show you that such and so? He said, I'm not going to discuss the intelligence report with you. And he walked out. How do you know that this is going to, the intelligence community, you know how he knows? That's a foolish question. You done got so unprofessional that you don't even know how to question a president because you had a fool in the White House. Then when you get a real president, you want to talk to him like you talking to a fool. No. I will do all that I can to help the man who's trying to help the country. I live here. If I'm a renter, even though this ain't my country, this white people's country, I know whose country this is. You play your little game all you want, but I don't play them games with you. But I do live here. The messenger said, we will not participate in any of your wars unless America herself is attacked, and wherein we may have something to fight for. You think I'm going to sit here idle and somebody attacking the country. When they attack the country, they give me no choice but to fight. Because I live here. But the main thing is, even if you renting a house, even people who renting, if that house catch on fire, they try to put it out. Huh? It ain't no fun having to find someplace else to live. So just listen.
We have heard nothing from Russia, and when you don't come out and say that was a targeting error after you've hit a hospital, there's a right, you have a right to wonder and believe that it was a deliberate target. What is your assessment of this kind of targeting by the Russians?
Russia does not get the benefit of the doubt. Russia has engaged in this kind of warfare repeatedly, whether that's, it's been known to strike mosques, it's been known to strike hospitals, schools. These things are not out of bounds and actually have been part of the targeting cycle for Russia. So in this case, the Russians have been indiscriminate in general, but we have to assume that this is part of the Russians' effort to demoralize the people of Mariupol that are providing fierce resistance, and they don't care who the casualties are. Frankly, in a way, part of the Russian doctrine is this idea that ending the war quickly through any means, even destroying these morale targets. That's what I called it when I forecast this war, as tragic as it's playing out, as barbaric as it's playing out, is that the Russians would go after morale targets to punish the population, and that, in their view, is there's a humane element to it because it doesn't prolong the suffering. But this is also a part of an information war, and Russia's on the losing end of this. There's already a demand from European and American population to do more.
Whenever you have to lie in order to get people to agree with you, you've already lost the information war. Because a lie will eventually prove itself to be a lie. Do you understand? Reality does never agree with lies, because reality is the truth. You see? I don't care how you close the outside of this building. And I mean, we got the lights on in here. And you can put a tarp and thing over there and say, that building is dark. Well, sooner or later, if somebody examine it close enough, they may just go there and put a little pinhole in that plastic that you got over there. They say, that building ain't dark. They got lights all out that building. Do you understand? See, a lie cannot stand. It cannot last. It has nothing to stabilize it. Even Hitler had sense enough, him and Goebbels had sense enough to say, they say, tell the big lie, but don't make it intricate. Keep it simple. Why? Because if you don't keep it simple and you start getting into them intricacies, that's why you can't have no questions. Because every time someone question your lie, you got to tell a bigger one to cover that one. Until pretty soon the lie gets so big that people say, oh, nigga, please. Do you understand? So, tell a big lie and keep it simple. And even that, it will not stand forever. It will only last as long as the person does not examine it too closely. Do you understand? And so this is what's going on now. You know, the lies that he telling is finding him out. Just like the lies Donald Trump was telling, they found him out. Huh? So now, all of you all who want to perpetuate and support liars, well, you know what Allah said about liars? That's the last thing he said. All liars shall have their part in the lake that burneth with fire and brimstone.
That demand is in a lot of ways being resisted by the U.S. government that believes there's too much risk involved. But in fact, there is a lot of appetite and there's a lot of room to take further action against Russia beyond the economic sanctions that have been discussed in terms of support for Ukraine. We may very well find ourselves in a situation where the demands from the population are so high that the U.S. government has no choice but to respond in a much more significant manner. That might be in the form of securing humanitarian corridors. But that's the direction we're heading right now.
Let's listen to what Admiral Kirby, the Pentagon spokesperson, said today about this question of sending jets to Ukraine for their use. Let's listen to this.
We assess that adding aircraft to the Ukrainian inventory is not likely to significantly change the effectiveness of the Ukrainian Air Force relative to Russian capabilities. Therefore, we believe that the gain from transferring those MiG-29s is low. And finally, the intelligence community has assessed that the transfer of MiG-29s to Ukraine may be mistaken as escalatory and could result in a significant Russian reaction that might increase the prospects of a military escalation with NATO.
So some are making the point that the Ukrainian pilots are not flying now with the aircraft that they already have, and so jets don't appear to be what they need at this point.
And also, he was making sure that by not giving them an excuse to say that the U.S. was escalating things and that justifies. Now, you don't want to justify what he's doing, because these people have a way of twisting things to make it, you see how they twist stuff. Make it look like, well, we had no choice because they attacked us and they did this to us. And they went, no, ain't nobody did nothing to him. They came over there purposely. They came over there and aggressed on that little country, on the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are fighting for their homeland. The Russians are the aggressors. And even some of the Russian officers acknowledged that they have no business over there. He even told the soldiers, they need to go home. No, as bad as what happened over there in Vietnam. After a while, you just couldn't do it no more. Get out of there. You didn't have no business over there. So now here you got this man over there killing civilians and trying to take them people's country from them, and then found out that they just gonna leave and let him take over their country.
That's not true. Frankly, I disagree with that assessment. I think we have to understand that one of the reasons that the Ukrainians aren't flying is because they don't have that many planes and they can't afford to lose them. They have to save some of that air power for when there's a crisis situation, let's say around Kiev. Those jets would be meaningful, as well as other kinds of support that we could provide.
The only thing that I would disagree with Lieutenant Colonel Vindman about on that is that you should never say, I don't agree with this, or you should simply say, in my opinion. Do you understand? Because there again, he don't have all the information that they have. Do you understand? The minute you are no longer in the loop of intelligence, you can no longer say what should or should not be done, unless you what you call modify that by saying, well, in my opinion, this is what should be done. But again, I don't have all the information. Do you understand? You see, so don't get emotional about it. The last thing you need when you're dealing with people that have armies, navies, air forces, and that have militaries and bombs, the last thing you need is an emotional group of people dealing with them. You need people who are in control of their emotions and are not getting it into a personal thing, but dealing with the situation in a logical and informed way. Do you understand? You don't need an emotional government. You need a government that is rooted in logic, rooted in reality of not just, I remember I was looking at 13 days, and the military was advising Kennedy to just go on in and invade. And Kennedy told him, well, if we invade, there are Russian soldiers there. What is Khrushchev going to do if Russian soldiers get killed? And so they looked at each other, the generals, and they nothing. And he said, well, generally, he's going to do something. Because if it was us and some of our soldiers were killed, we would certainly retaliate. And he thanked him. He said, thank you. And I will take it under advisement. And he, as they was walking out, they was talking him down. They didn't like the fact that he didn't say okay to what they wanted to do. But he just Kennedy kind of shook his head and said, no, that's why there was wisdom in making sure that the military was under civilian control. Look, man, let me tell you something. Don't nobody train to box and don't go out looking for a fight. I mean, let's just face it. If you train to fight, I mean, all they got to do is say, hey, you ready to go fight this time? Yeah, I'm ready. I was ready yesterday. and you go over there. So you need them to be ready to fight, but you don't need them to be in control of when to fight. Do you understand? And so that was wise to put the military under civilian government. That way, when it's time, if you can't talk, as they call it, diplomacy. And politics is the art of being polite. Do you understand? That's just, it actually it deals with a lot of flattery and insincere statements. But by being polite, you can avoid war. Do you understand? You can't say everything you think. This is where these people have lost their minds here. They elected a man who thought it was a virtue to say everything that he had on his mind, where the scripture says the fool uttereth all his mind. But the wise man ponders and speaks afterward in so many words. The messenger taught us, he said, think 5 times before you speak. Why? How many physical senses do you have? You have 5 senses. So you just make sure your eyes, your ears, and all of your senses you have brought into agreement before you let what's coming out your mouth come out your mouth. You know, sometimes the eyes and the ears don't agree. And so you have to do more investigation before you speak. So that's what trials are about. You know, you get more information before you make a decision. You see, so I'm trying to wise you up. I told you, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to teach you how to think. Once you teach a man how to think for himself, you can sleep at night. He ain't got to call you. I didn't hear you. Yeah, I rest good at night now, because I teach my followers how to think for themselves. You know, this is what you supposed. That's how you free the mind. A mind that cannot reason is a mind that is not free. So a liar can only prosper as long as people don't know the truth and don't know how to find out the truth. The minute you teach people how to find out what they don't know, the Holy Quran says, if an unrighteous, or when an unrighteous person, or if an unrighteous person, so I'll just say if and when an unrighteous person brings you news, look carefully into it, lest you harm a people and then be sorry for what you did. Well, if you're going to look carefully into it, that means you got to be taught how to look into it. You got to be taught how to investigate. And in order to investigate, you got to know how to ask questions that the person don't know why you asking. Do you understand? When people don't know why you asking a question, let me show you an example. In a deposition, a knowledgeable attorney will ask you questions so you will never know what he's really trying to get the answer to. Do you understand? In depositions, you answer whatever question that you are asked. You don't talk about no objections and all that old kind of thing. You can object all you want, but this is a deposition. So you just give the answer that you're going to give. Huh? Okay. Well, sometimes he will ask you 5 or 10 questions just so he can get you to answer one question for him that he really wants the answer to. Do you understand? And that's the way you do it. You see? And you notice people stop coming in here to talk to me. Why do you suppose they did that? Because by the time I finish talking with them, I done read their mind. As Patton said, I read his book. do you understand? Your book is your mind. So you can force people to tell you what you want to know if you know how. You see? You know, people say things all the time. I told you the body has one purpose. Is to express what's on your mind. That's all the purpose of the body is to carry out the instructions of the mind. So if you pay attention, everybody is an open book. Everybody is an open book. You hear me? Okay. There it is. So, including me. Ain't no sense in trying to hide nothing. Since you know, you eventually people gonna find out anyway if they pay attention. The devil had a saying, "Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies." So they telling you he the devil right there. Do you hear me? So, ask me all the questions you want. I'm not going to tell you no lies. Because you might ask me that question again 2 weeks later or 3 months later. And if I didn't tell you the truth, and you kept a record of what I gave you as an answer, you're going to find out that I didn't tell you the truth because I gave you a different answer to the 2 and 2 is 4. It's not just 4 today. If you ask me that a year from now, I will still tell you 2 and 2 is 4. Do you understand? Why? Because that's the truth. And I remember what the answer is. Because it has roots. Falsehood has no roots. It has nothing to stabilize it. So, I'm telling all of you all this because I want you to be able to protect yourself from people lying to you. Sometimes this is what you should do to keep yourself from having to later on say you're sorry for having wronged a person. Instead of just running with the first answer you get, dig a little deeper. Sometimes when a person tells you something that you know is wrong, don't tell them you know it's wrong. See how far they will go with it. Just sit there and pretend to be going along with it. Pretend to be listening. And because what I mean when I say listening, I mean pretend to be going for what they're telling you. By just not saying anything. Because generally when people don't hear no opposition from you, they keep talking. Do you understand? And if you let them keep talking, then you will discover whether they are making a mistake or purposely lying to you. When people are making a mistake, they tell you things that they believe is true, but in reality it may not be true. But when a person is lying to you, they will connect another lie to the lie they just told. Do you understand? So whenever people just consistently tell you things and then bolster what they just told you, which was not true, and they bolster it with something else, it is because they are lying. You see. So the mind does not remember lies. The mind remembers truth. It stabilizes it. That's why when people lie, they always got a different spin on it. They may tell you the same thing, but it's a little bit different next time they tell you. And then when they tell it again, it's a little bit different. Because they can't remember. It's not stabilized in their mind from something that actually happened. It's just them trying to bring up a memory that didn't exist in the first place. You understand? Okay.
With regards to unmanned proxy warfare, how the Soviet Union and Russia have conducted proxy warfare, that's some cherry picking of intelligence right there, intelligence assessments. That sounds like a harsh judgment. I just have seen how these things work. And what scares me about this is it suggests that basically we may have reached the limit of what we're willing to do at this moment, which is provide these short-range anti-tank systems, these highly effective javelins, and short-range air defense stingers, and that's all we're prepared to do at the moment. That scares me because we're going to see a lot more of these kinds of.
Now I want you to listen to Lawrence O'Donnell when he checks him on what he just said. Because Lawrence O'Donnell, he recognized that, I mean, you know, it's certain things you just can't get out here and suggest that the United States is supposed to go to war with Russia. I mean, what do you know that can degenerate into nuclear holocaust? Even if you got sense enough not to set off a nuclear war, does Putin look like he got sense enough to not do that? And if the generals that's doing his bidding over there now are willing to kill civilians like they're doing, you don't want to go down that path because you might force something that you didn't intend to do because you're dealing with someone who's seeming to be unhinged. Huh? You see? So you have to be careful what you suggest to do. Watch Lawrence snatch him back.
Barbaric actions, targeting of hospitals, targeting of newborn. I'm sorry, the name escapes me, but oh my gosh, so hospitals and schools and so forth. And we're not going to react. If this was any other country that wasn't doing a little bit of saber rattling, that wasn't somehow indicating that we're headed towards a nuclear war, we ought to have taken action a long time ago. And especially if they start to unfold
Colonel, we're running out of time.
See, he defeated his own argument. I mean, Russia has, as he said, about 45% of the nuclear capabilities on the planet. So you don't want to talk about going to war with them. That's a situation that you don't want to get in. Do you understand? And so, yes, if it was any other country that was doing that, the U.S. probably would have stepped in and told them, you can't do this. Huh? But, I mean, he may be speaking crazy, but he still got a big stick over there. Do you understand? So you don't want to go down that path. Watch Lawrence when they have this conversation. They will wind up in agreement before it's over with.
A couple of points there. First of all, there are many countries in the world where we've never considered 1 minute of intervention. We saw suffering in the Ethiopian civil war within the last year that wasn't even televised, wasn't even brought to American audiences. And so What we are seeing here is the most that the United States has ever done in supporting a country being invaded by another country short of war. And the other point about it is when you said it doesn't seem escalatory to you, it also doesn't seem escalatory to Admiral Kirby. He made that clear. The point is, would it be seen, the jets, would they be seen as escalatory by Vladimir Putin? And so what they are doing is trying to deal with an anticipation of Vladimir Putin. And so do you have confidence in your anticipation that Vladimir Putin would not see the transfer of those jets as escalatory and a reason for him to escalate to something even worse, including possibly tactical nuclear weapons, the kind that the United States does not have and cannot deploy in that situation?
So Putin is not a madman. He understands the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. In my firsthand,
See, that's the first mistake. That's him saying Putin is not a madman, yet Putin is doing something that does not make sense. I mean, you want to say he's sane while he's doing something that appears to be not sane? Do you understand? He said Putin is not a madman. See, he's out of the loop now. See, when he was in the intelligence community, he was privy to things that was going on behind closed doors and what the report was on Putin's state of mind. You understand? But he ain't got no information on that now. But from what you can see, going down the road of crimes against humanity is not a sane act. I didn't hear you. So to say Putin is not a madman, well, what is all of this bombing of hospitals and killing babies? But anyway.
experience watching this unfold on the battlefields in Syria when Russian forces, mercenaries supported by Russian military, attacked U.S. personnel in Syria. The Russians didn't respond when U.S. was compelled to strike air bases occupied by Russian personnel. I could hear the pleading from the chief of the Russian general staff to make sure that Russians soldiers weren't targeted, so Russia wouldn't be in a position to respond. I have very good confidence, based on my firsthand experience, that the Russians are not going to try to provoke or escalate to a direct confrontation when they're already bogged down in
nuclear weapons within Ukraine and wipe out Ukraine beyond recognition in response to any escalation by the United States.
That is a difficult question to answer because there is no nuclear response from Ukraine. But the precedents that would set for a country that he believes the people are basically one and the same as his people, that's what he said repeatedly. That's actually one of the causes for this war. He's trying to liberate these people. To then conduct a nuclear strike on them, that is not something that he's able to walk away from. And also, he's not the only one in that chain. Yes, he's the ultimate decision maker, but there are plenty.
See, he's showing, Mr. Vindman is showing that he's out of touch with reality here. That's what Putin is telling the people in Russia, that he's liberating Russians. But the rest of the world knows that's a lie. Do you understand? And Putin knows that the rest of the world knows that's a lie. So you don't say that he's not going to nuke these people with tactical nukes, because that would undo what he's saying. No, because he's already told the people that Nazis is in charge of Ukraine, and so whatever he do, he'll be able to justify it to them who believe his lie. Do you understand? He already the world knows that he's lying. The only ones who don't know he's lying is the ones that he's done kept in the dark through his shutting down of media, except state-run media. So the argument Mr. Vindman putting out there for his sanity and whatnot, that don't work. Because Putin ain't fooling nobody but the people that's in his circle. The rest of the world recognizes that that's naked aggression that he's doing there. And if he's willing to bomb hospitals and schools and kill civilians now, he's willing to do tactical nukes on them. A person does not understand something. That's a feather in the cap of the United States to say that they have no tactical nukes. You know why? It says that they don't believe that that is a right thing to use in warfare. Nuclear weapons that kill soldiers or whatnot. No such thing as a tactical nuke. But Russia got them. Do you suppose they got them so they won't use them? Or have they convinced themselves that under certain circumstances it would be a tactic that they could use? It is called tactical nukes. I didn't hear you. What does that say about your civilization when you think that there is a need for you to have tactical nuclear arms? It does not speak well for what you think of humanity. Those are weapons that are weapons of last resort. If you saw Babylon 5, you remember Babylon 5? When the president saw he was about to lose, he had scorched earth. If you drop tactical nuclear weapons on Ukraine, it won't even be of no use to you. The radiation fallout from it will make it uninhabitable for you to even take over. So why would you do that? That's what you would do. That's what people do when they know they're about to lose. So blow it all up. Huh? So, no. Anyway.
Of Russian military officers in that chain that understand how that could unfold and what brings the risks that bring. There's no such thing as a tactical employment of a nuclear weapon. The Russians understand that. It's automatically a strategic.
If they understood that, they wouldn't have tactical nukes. Do you understand?
Capability.
They do, Russia does have tactical nuclear weapons that they can use in Ukraine whose effect will be felt within Ukraine. They can do that. That is the fear that exists within the Biden administration and the decision makers. Do you agree that that is something that they should be concerned about and consider, or do you think they should be just confident in a predictive reading of Vladimir Putin's behavior, like the predictive reading that you're making?
Yeah, we can't. I mean, we should absolutely not be dismissive of nuclear saber rattling and the risks of escalation. What we can do is we can make risk-informed decisions, well thought out, well considered decisions and the consequences of those decisions informed by what we understand and what we have high confidence on with regards to Russian actions. We have to remember that in the past we've played out these scenarios consistently. We have generations of experience fighting proxy warfare in a limited manner. We always go to the worst case scenario of nuclear escalation. That is a misplaced fear, and that's what obstructs our ability to act and support our interests and values.
Colonel Vindman, I would suggest that none of the pre-existing models of any potential confrontation between the United States and Russia, none of them fit the current model. This is the most extreme that this kind of situation has reached since 1962, since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I would say that we've played out proxy warfare where the Russians were operating and manning aircraft against our forces in North Korea. They were the ones that were knocking out our planes in Vietnam, including likely Senator McCain's plane. I've heard the Russian air defense troops
No, but this,
brag about
Colonel,
this.
this is not a proxy war by Russia. This is a war by Russia against another country. This is not proxy. This is not them using another country's battlefield and supporting. Is no previous model that fits
Afghanistan.
this particular conflict. We did not confront.
What Lawrence is saying is right here in the scripture. He says, this is the 24th chapter of Matthew, and I'm going to go to the 21st verse and cut to the chase. It says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. What did Lawrence tell him? This ain't never been before. We ain't never seen nothing like this. No, and you're not going to see nothing like it again after this. This is a terrible day and time that you live in. So,
the Russians in Afghanistan. We are doing in Ukraine what we did in Afghanistan. The Russians confronted Afghanistan. We did not dare confront the Russians in Afghanistan.
We're saying the same thing, frankly, because
Okay.
what we're talking about is the Ukrainians with the material they need to fight it. I've never advocated for U.S. forces on the ground or in the air. That's never been part of the discussion. What I'm saying is that we need to equip the Ukrainians to be able to fight effectively on their own. They've actually proven themselves and shown the fortitude to win. They just need to be equipped. Just like we're talking about Russian forces in Afghanistan, we support the Mujahideen in the same exact way. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about direct involvement.
Yes, that would be the same thing. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we will be joined by Misha Katsurin, who will tell us what it's like to be under attack in Ukraine with his father on the phone in Russia, telling him that that is not happening. His father told him that what he has seen in Ukraine with his own eyes did not happen because his father is stuck in the Putin propaganda zone in Russia. Misha Katsurin will join us next with his plan to break through the Putin propaganda wall. Misha Katsurin, who owns a restaurant in Kyiv, was surprised that his father didn't call after the war started in Ukraine to make sure that he was okay. Misha Katsurin closed his restaurant, got his wife and 2 children safely to Hungary. Then he relocated to a safer city west of Kyiv. After some time went by, still his father had not called to check on him, and so he called his father, who lives in Russia, and he discovered that his father had no idea that Vladimir Putin was waging war on Ukraine. That first phone call did not go well, and Misha ended up angrily hanging up on his father, giving up. Then he decided he could not afford to give up. He had to keep calling. He had to keep telling the truth, them the truth, until they understand the truth. Misha has launched a website, which in English means Papa Believe. The website advises Ukrainians how to speak the truth to Russians in a way that they might eventually understand. Misha Katsurin says, with 11 million people, everything can happen. And joining us now is Misha Katsurin, is a restaurateur who lives in Ukraine. And his family, he does have family in Russia. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Tell us what it was like when you first spoke to your father.
That's totally mind-blowing because he's like a close person to me. He's my father, I'm his son. And when you call your father, you expect him to believe what you are saying, especially if you are saying about what you see with your own eyes. So but I know quite a lot about Russian propaganda, and I called him because I realized that if he doesn't call me, probably he doesn't know what's going on. So that was not big surprise. Big surprise was that he started to argue. And when I told him, Father, Russia started bombing us, it invades Ukraine, and now I'm trying to save my little son and my little daughter and to escape from the Kiev, from the bombs. And he said, no. He started arguing that in reality, Russia now are saving you from the Nazis regime, and we don't have Nazis regime. And he said the most interesting thing that the Russian soldiers now are giving us food and warm clothes to Ukrainian people. So you all saw the videos of how they're giving warm clothes and food.
Why did he say that Ukraine is being controlled by a Nazi regime? It's because the Russian people know the history of the Nazis, and that they was at war against Nazis during Hitler's time. So that's an easy boogeyman to bring up. Do you understand? So they've made up a fictitious enemy to justify aggression. But it makes no real sense because the rest of the world knows better. That's what happens when you decide that you're going to, a right way to do a wrong thing. Now, I want you to look at this little clip from Babylon 5. It probably ain't gonna play. I've been had it on hold so long, but I want you to listen to this conversation. It's about a 3.5 minute clip from. I played it for you once, but it talks about what you call power and the use of power. Matter of fact, the name of it is the exercise of vital power. You see, that's the name of the episode. And well, I want you to see this. Just a moment. Let me make sure I got this in here. Get all these things in here. Give me a minute here. I gotta put the
Ancient Greeks defined happiness.
Not offhand, but I'd be willing to bet it involved 3 goats and a jug of wine.
Happiness, they said, was the exercise of vital powers along lines of excellence in a life affording them scope. Humans have always struggled to find the outer edge of what's possible, and that's our strength. But what kind of world would we have? What options for happiness would we have in a society run by telepaths, where ordinary humans are considered second-class citizens, and privacy is something you don't even risk dreaming about? Would you like to live in that kind of world, Mr. Garibaldi?
No, I wouldn't.
But you know it's coming, don't you?
There are a few psychops out there who think they should be running the whole show, but they don't have anywhere near the kind of power to pull off anything like this.
Not yet. But that's changing.
Come on, look, yeah, even if they tried something, they'd be outnumbered 10,000 to 1.
You're thinking in old terms, the force of arms. But times have changed. We're talking a war of information, a war of secrets, a war of intimidation. Once they take off those badges, can you tell a telepath from a normal? They don't have to be everywhere to make people believe they might be living next door. You want your secrets exposed? Your most private thoughts broadcast for the world to hear?
No, but it
How
can.
many people actually belong to the Nazi Party, the Communist Party, the Jihad Party? A very small number. But there are always plenty of other people who are happy to do the work for them. And others afraid enough to let it happen.
In order for them to take power, they need an army.
You're still laboring under the notion that people take power. Nobody takes power. They're given power by the rest of it.
Did you hear what he said? Nobody takes power. They're given power. You see my point? They're given power by the ignorant. I'll turn it back up. They're given power by the people. Ignorance and fear. Hitler couldn't have did nothing if the German people, if he hadn't convinced them to give him the power to do it. Do you understand? They gave him the power to do what he did. Even in the scripture, it says Jesus didn't do many works, good works down there because of their unbelief. In other words, they didn't give him the power to do it. Do you understand? It's just like me right here. If these people, because the people wouldn't give me their trust and get behind me, I couldn't do much for them. You understand? Power is given, not taken. Donald Trump couldn't have hurt this country if they hadn't helped him and gave him the power to do so. You understand? You gave it to him. And he almost done ruined you. So, you can hate me all you want. Just show you how stupid you are. You hate your friends and you love your enemies. And you're gonna regret that one of these days. You mark my words. That's going to be an intense regret to you. So I'm a young man trying to talk to his father and tell his father what's going on. And his father been so brainwashed and messed up by the false news that he getting from Putin that his daddy don't even believe it. And his son telling him they're dropping bombs on us here. He calls his son a lie. Ain't that something? Okay. You say it's all about info wars now. Yeah, these people running around here making laws that supposed to be protecting the voting thing, when actually what it is laws to prevent people from voting. Huh? Lying. Whenever you think that you can build a civilization based on lies, you've already destroyed the civilization that you thought you was going to build. That's like thinking that you can go out here and put up props that look like corn, a whole field of it, and somehow think that somehow that's going to feed you. You don't get, props ain't going to never turn into corn. It may look like corn, it may be plastic, it may be a good replica, but it ain't real. Do you understand? You can look at it, but you can't eat it. If you want some real corn, you got to go out there and do some work. you got to grow. You got to let it get rooted out of the earth and nourished through cultivation and grow up. And that takes time. You understand? Here, you want to build up a house of cards and talk about moving in. And any little strong wind come along and blow your house away. Huh? You'll notice. The truth is something you can't let out when your whole way of civilization is depending on lies in order to sustain itself. You live in a universe that was created with truth. So when you decided that you was going to build up a civilization based on lies, you made the universe your enemy. That wasn't very bright at all. So you suit yourself. It's been 3 hours. So I'm not gonna hold you over tonight. But you just remember, you better make up your mind where you stand. Because you take too long to stand for right, then your mind has already been made up that you stand for wrong. Did you hear me? Okay. And just remember now. You it's kind of like what Dr. King said about justice. Justice too long delayed is justice denied. Huh? Well, you take too long to bear witness to the truth, then it shows that you are a lover of lies. Did you hear me? You notice? I notice a lot of you think I'm up here for your entertainment. No, I'm not here to entertain you. You're being judged, whether you realize it or not. And just like Noah's people, the end came suddenly. Just like Lot's people, the end came suddenly. Let me read it to you. It says, this is the I left off at the 22nd verse of that 24th chapter of Matthew. I'm going to read it from there. The 23rd verse says, Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs, false bodies of religious people who all teaching the same doctrine like the prophets, the true Christ, the true anointed ones. They all taught and doctrine that agreed with each other. The Baptists, they teach doctrine that agrees with each other. The Methodists, they teach doctrines that agree with each other. The Episcopal, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Scientologists, all of them, they teach the same doctrine that agrees with each other. You don't see them contradicting each other. I didn't hear you. false Christs, pretending to be anointed by God, when in actuality it's not the word of God that you hear coming from them. It's their own doctrines. It's their own words. You hear what I said? Okay. It says, For there shall arise false Christs and false representatives, false prophets. You see, Christ is the whole body of messengers and prophets, and each individual is called the prophet. You understand? Well, likewise, false bodies and false prophets. And it says, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. If it were possible, yes, they would deceive me. But they can't deceive me. As the messenger said once, he said, can the devil fool a Muslim? He said, no, sir, not nowadays. No. Why? Because this is the Sabbath day. And our law is with me now. So you can't fool me with your false religious doctrines. I'm here to overcome your doctrines. And I have done that. You don't see anyone challenging me from anybody's religious doctrine. Huh? You notice they get mad at me for talking about their leader, but they don't come in here bringing their leaders and their doctrine in here to call themselves contradicting me. Huh? And it says, behold, I have told you before it come to pass. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he, the Lord, is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chamber, believe it not. For as the lightning, as the sun cometh out of the east, and shineth, even unto the western hemisphere, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, wheresoever the dead body is, there will the vultures or eagles be gathered together. Wheresoever the greatest need for light is, there is where the Son of Man will be. Do you understand? And it says, you notice, the Eastern world had the Holy Bible and they had the Holy Quran, and they had it for thousands of years. Is that right? The West just came into this country here, this Western world, this Western cradle of civilization spiritually called Egypt and Sodom. It came into existence approximately 250 years ago and never had a visit from divine. No prophets, no messengers. Wheresoever the carcass is, there shall the eagles be gathered together. Huh? This is where the greatest need, and therefore the Son of Man. Huh? And it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. The sun has been made darkened by these people giving false understanding of the Holy Scriptures. The Scriptures themselves is the Son of Man, the light around which all human brains is supposed to get in orbit. But no, they done darkened the sun. Talking about God, when it reads, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And then they add this to it, that whosoever believe he died for them shall not perish but have everlasting life. He didn't die. Y'all killed him according to you. I didn't hear you. Okay, let's go a little further. So the sun was darkened. It says the sun then Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Well, if the sun is darkened, then the prophets, they couldn't, since they are the moon that reflected the light of the sun, when the sun was misinterpreted, when the scriptures was misinterpreted, then the prophets went dark. Do you understand? And so it says, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Well, now the stars are falling down from heaven, as they was commanded to do. Allah said, as when a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when shaken by a mighty wind. So the messengers of God were all told to fall down and make obeisance to me. The stars of heaven were. Jesus, Moses, David, Solomon, and Allah took a covenant, an oath from them. That's why Jesus, when people asked, when he was talking to Pilate, and Pilate said, art thou a king then? And Jesus said, you say I'm a king. That's what you say. He said, but for this cause came I into the world, and to this end was I born, that I should bear witness unto the Spirit of truth. Unto the truth. That's why he told you when the Spirit of truth is come. And he didn't just say when the Spirit of truth is come. He said when he, the Spirit of truth, is come. He will guide you. Am I not guiding you into the understanding of all of the truth? He said, for he shall receive of mine and show it unto you. What am I doing right now? Verse for verse. Receiving Jesus' teaching and showing you the understanding. Then it says, and then shall appear the sign. What is that? The sign of what? Of the Son of Man in heaven. Opening up the scriptures and in the spiritual heaven. I'm here speaking to you right out of the book. Not with a speech that I wrote, but I'm reading to you straight from the book itself. The Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout. And it says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Yeah, that's going on now. Ukraine, among other places, Somalia, and all the places there's trouble, 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 trouble. It says, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. They even got a thing on the internet called the cloud. I didn't hear you. It says, coming in the clouds of heaven, coming in the scriptures. For the scriptures is the clouds of heaven. Them hydrogen and oxygen clouds out there, that's the clouds of the physical heaven, water vapor. But the clouds of the spiritual heaven is the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran. And they see me coming in the clouds of heaven with power, with knowledge of understanding, and great glory. With knowledge and great understanding. Then it says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. That's what I'm doing now. He maketh his angels spirits. Spirits is words. I'm sending my angels now. And it says, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds. You notice, more and more people starting to listen to me because the words that I'm speaking are gathering them. Do you understand? And they shall gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. The Holy Quran says, Abraham asked Allah, O Allah, show me how thou givest life to the dead. And Abraham was told, Allah said unto him, disbelievest thou? And Abraham said, no, but that my heart might be at rest. And so Allah told him, he said, take 4 birds. You notice, there are 4 human beings four peoples that all of the people on the earth come out of. The four came out of the one: black, brown, yellow, and white. And then by the mixing of them, you got all of these other people. So, but it's actually just the four. So Allah said, when he was asked by Abraham, how do you give life to the dead? He said, take 4 birds and teach them to incline to thee. Teach them to recognize your voice, your words. Teach them to recognize your words, to incline to you. Now, place a part of them atop of every mountain. They say place a part of them. It don't mean take the birds and cut them up in parts. You got 4 birds. We'll take one, set him on this mountain, another one, set him on that one, and another one on that one, and another one on that one, on 4 mountains. Well, there are 4 directions in the earth: north, south, east, and west. And there are 12 gates into the city, the holy city. And those gates are the holy prophets. The holy prophets is these holy books. There's 3 gates to the east, 3 gates to the west, 3 gates to the north, and 3 gates to the south. And it's 12 gates. And those gates are the Holy Scriptures: the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. The Bible, the Torah, and the Quran in the north, south, east, and west. 12 gates to the city. And then it says, and and the song, that's a song. It says 12 gates to the city. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. And so this is gathering the people now. The people are gathering to me because of the gates. There's the prophets are the gates. They say, lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. You see? And I'm the King of glory. The Lord of hosts is the King of glory. Then it says, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise you, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. The prophets are the everlasting doors. And you see I'm standing at the doors now. And I knock, and they open unto me. Then it says, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all these things be fulfilled. I told you, this the end. It ain't going to no another generation. No, this is the generation that's going to be judged. And it says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. And I just told you in that day now. Then nobody, like a lot of people say, well, why didn't the messenger tell us about you? He did tell you about me, but he couldn't tell you when I was going to come. But he did tell you this. He said, ain't nobody coming behind me but God. I better tell you that. And if I'm not the grantor of dominion, why everybody got to shut their mouth at me? You may not like what I'm saying, but you sure can't make no lie out of it. Says, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. I told you. You think that you're doing something big, rejecting me and having a good old time talking about me behind my back? Don't you worry. This is going to catch you just like it caught Noah's people. It says, then shall two be in the bed, in the field. Excuse me. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. Now I came and I told you who I am, and I showed you who I am. Showing you now. Who besides me can stand up and teach directly from these books and make these books bear them witness? Okay. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. You notice, I told you before that thief and robber got in the White House. I told you when he was running. I warned you. I say that man planning on getting rid of your government. Didn't I tell you that? You ungrateful wretches. Now look at you. And not only did you fill the White House with them, now you filling all the governor's mansion with them kind of people. And they destroying you. Therefore be ye ready, also ready. For in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. Look at you. Well, you know the second he coming. He coming. No, he ain't coming. I'm here. I remember in Brother John, that movie Brother John with Sidney Poitier. The old white man came in there with John and said, they said, why did they pick you? He said, I would sure like to see some of the faces with they see. In other words, he said, you black. And we've been mistreating y'all, and now you come to find out you our judge. You know, yeah. See, you don't know a person until you get up on them. That's how you get to know them. You know why white people don't say nothing to me? Because I know him. He ain't got no surprise to bring on me. I know him. I know what he been up to. You know, I served him. So I know him. And I served him by walking in his shoes. But I didn't become him. I tell you what, you meet people that I grew up with, and they will tell you I had my moments where I wasn't the best of persons. But ain't none of them going to tell you that I was just low down. I never was really of this world. I was just in this world. But I never was of it. I never fell in love with it. The things that most people in this world value so much, I never valued. After I got it, it didn't mean nothing to me. I saw it wasn't about nothing. And that's what people, just like people so crazy about money. You know, they do anything for money. And then after they get money, all they can do is buy a car, buy a house, buy some clothes, buy some food. And the rich man can't buy nothing no different than the poor man. He just buy more of it. But all he can do is buy a house, buy a boat, buy a car. just buy something to sit in. And instead of looking at money as a tool, they worship money. It's just stupid. Yes. Unmute him. Okay. I didn't hear you. One of them restricted numbers. That's all right. Let him make his own bed. You unmuted.
Why are you taking advantage of
I tell you what, mister. Now, I threw you in hell once, and I let you out. If you say another disrespectful word to me, I'm going to shut the door on you. Now, you think this is a joke? That's not rhetorical. Do you think I'm a joke? Is he still there? Sir? Well, you know, you got one more time to come in here and try to play with me. I'm gonna throw you in hell, and as far as you concerned, that door gonna be closed. You remember what I told that boy in New York? Now I'm telling him. I took more from him. What did you say?
I said you are a joke. I didn't stutter.
To hell with you. Amen. Amen. And amen. Okay, put him out. And I don't want him back in this room anymore. Okay. His ego done. You know, you heard that old saying, your mouth write you a check that your behind can't cash. Well, that's what he just did. So, and everybody know he been listening to me for years. Huh? If I'm a joke, why would he keep coming in here? See? So he decided he wants to show off. Well, now he can go to hell. So, anybody else? No, sir. Okay. See, I knew his ego wasn't gonna let him go on about his business. Probably sitting there with some woman or whatever, trying to show off. Yeah. To hell with it. So, anyone else? You know, like I said, let them make their own bed, man. Trees do that all the time. You look at most of the leaves that fall from a tree, they're right down there under the tree, fertilizing it again. They making their own bed. Well, by your own words, you'll be justified, and by your own words, you'll be condemned. You're making your own bed. Do you understand? Okay. Now I don't have to talk to him ever again. And when I hear his voice, if he come under another number or whatever, I want him immediately put out of here. I don't think about him. So, anybody else? You see, there's the Holy Quran says it like this: my advice will not profit you if I intend to give you good advice, if Allah intends to destroy you. So he sat there and sat there and sat there, and he just couldn't keep his mouth shut. Huh? Yeah? Okay. So if there are no more questions or no more people who think they need to throw an insult at me, anybody else think they need to tell me about myself? Tell me how big a joke I am to you? Brother Jamal? Ain't nobody typing nothing? They need to hear y'all, man. I mean, I need the people to hear you answering me.
Yes, sir. Nobody's typing and nobody has their hand up in the room, per Brother Michael.
Something wrong with your microphone? You got 2 microphones back there. Why don't y'all? Here's a mic. Why don't you hook up these? Let me see here. This thing might not work.
No one that has their hand raised, sir.
Testing. Yeah, this one works. Here, take this one back there. And keep it back there. I don't want nobody thinking that I put the card on it. I know you got two things back there coming off of one of them deals there, so hook him up a card to it. So I don't like people to think that we just pretending to be talking to somebody. I want them to hear you. So, no, this is a day where people just lie. Just lie. No, it's time to tell the truth. Time to speak the truth, regardless to who don't like it. So, okay. And I'm going to let y'all go. And I want you to get all of that stuff straight. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring them cordless mics over here again. And you ain't got the bottom to it, do you? Okay. Well, I'll bring that cordless mic over here, and y'all can hook it into the system, and then we'll be good to go. Look, all of you, look, if you want other people to take you seriously, you need to take yourself seriously. You see? So, it's some of us are used as lessons for others of us. Some vessels are made for honor, and some are made for dishonor. You see an example of that in your bathroom. The commode is made for feces, but it's made out of porcelain. While the sink is made to wash your face in. And it's made out of porcelain. One for honor, one for dishonor. One for clean, and one for unclean. Do you understand? Okay. So that fella that you were just listening to, he was made for dishonor. And he can't help himself. Huh? Well, he chose to stay that way. So if he wants to stay that way, I ain't got time to bump around here with him. He ain't never gonna be satisfied. His mind comes and goes. And but only this time, I'm not taking back what I said. All right? Okay. And may Allah bless us, keep us safe and in our right minds. And those of us who believe in His word. But as I was saying, with that resurrection of the dead, the same way the gospel that Abraham, I should say, was told to teach birds to hear his words. Allah sent the prophets to teach human beings on every continent, on every mountain, to hear his words. And then he said, now call them, and they will come to thee flying. You remember the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, fly to Allah. Huh? Yes. Allah is the truth. So everybody who has been taught the word of God, they should recognize the Son of Man that's standing up here giving them understanding of that which they recognize. Do you understand? There you go. Fly to Allah. So let us leave it there. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon each and every one of you who are humble to his word. And may he grant you a peaceful and pleasant night's rest and sleep, and a happy, peaceful, and pleasant morning's rise. May Allah's Salam Alaikum.